Everybody, I picked up this guitar synthesizer pedal from what might be my favorite pedal company, Electro Harmonix. I don't always use them. There are some other great pedals that often fit into my pedal board better and so on, but just always cool sounds from Electro Harmonix, very rock and roll. This is a Synth 9. And it's one of So this is the fourth guitar synthesizer pedal I have tried. I tried the Boss Synth-1. I tried the Electro Harmonix Mono Synth. I tried that Keeley synth pedal, and then this. And I thought this was the easiest to use. And maybe it's less authentic. I think this is sort of presets and maybe some digital stuff in there, whereas some of those other ones were actually synthesizers with those sawtooth and they were actually more like functioning synthesizers. I don't know. But this one had some presets that I thought sounded pretty good. And those other ones, every time I would find they sounded good for a second, and then I'd lose it. And it just seemed like sort of an uncontrollable thing. I have never played a Moog synthesizer, but that was kind of what I was looking for, is sort of a Moog synthesizer to get that old Lucky Man, Keith Emerson Lucky Man sound, or even switched on Bach, or Styx, Grand Illusion, some of those classic synthesizer sounds of yore. And I thought this was pretty good. I guess and I thought this was pretty good. I guess one takeaway would be that probably at the end of the day, if you think about it, a guitar synthesizer, if you just want a pedal like this and you're trying to sound like Lucky Man, that's kind of a tall order, because Lucky Man's a keyboard. So what I noticed is you're still playing a guitar, so it always kind of sounds like a guitar, because you're playing a guitar, and the guitar is the signal. And I don't know if that issue is as prominent with the keyboard. So if you make a keyboard sound like a trumpet, it's going to sound like a trumpet. But if you make a guitar sound like a trumpet, you're still kind of playing a guitar. I don't know if that's a good analogy, but sometimes I sort of think it is. One of my favorite uses of the guitar synthesizer was in that old Jeff Beck, Jan Hammer group live album that came out in the late 70s. I remember when like Blue Wind and Freeway Jam was on the radio a lot, and I think he had a full-blown guitar synthesizer. And I guess one takeaway I would have is that if you really want a guitar synthesizer, get a guitar synthesizer, because these are kind of fun, and you can get some usable sounds out of them. But if you're trying to sound like Jeff Beck, first you've got to play like Jeff Beck, obviously, but also if you're trying to kind of get that sound, I don't know. I just feel like you probably want an actual guitar synthesizer. I saw. Number 2. I saw the California Guitar Trio years ago. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they were three guys from California, thus the name, California Guitar Trio. And they all played Breedlove guitars, and all three of them had those Roland guitar synthesizers with those special pickups, and they got some amazing sounds. And so I think if you're, and that was guitar synthesizer. I mean, it sounded like they did a Beethoven's Fifth Symphony on that thing, and they were getting all kinds of sounds with those Roland guitar synthesizers. And I think if you're trying to do that, I don't know if you could ever do anything even close to that with one of these pedals. So I'm always torn whenever I try these. I love that old 70s synthesizer. Number 3. Number 4. But I'm never quite sure. That Boss one, I think, also had some pretty usable sounds in it, but it had a bunch of modes. I think over 100 modes on this little tiny Boss dial, and the pedal was just one of those standard Boss pedals. Some of them sounded good. A lot of them sounded to me kind of like 80s keyboards, and I was never too crazy about all those 80s keyboard sounds, those kind of cheap-sounding 80s keyboard synthesizers. But I did like a lot of the classic rock keyboards, synthesizers in the 70s. And I think number 5. Number 6. And I think if you really are serious about doing guitar synthesizer, you probably want a guitar synthesizer. And that Roland, I don't know if that's still around, but you'd probably want to go in a direction like that, because when I saw that California Guitar Trio, they were just making those things sound gorgeous, beautiful. Sometimes it would sound like the end of the world, and they all had those actual guitar synthesizers, and they all had big boards, and I'm sure it was kind of complicated to use. And I don't think you'll ever get something like that. You can kind of get a Lucky Man sound out of this, though. Like I said, it still sounds kind of like a guitar. Number 7. I've got Control 1 way over. Let's try both of them at 12 o'clock. Number 8. The final thing I will say is I've got like a micropog, and some of those effects sound kind of synthesizer-ish too, so I think you can get synthesizer type sounds if you just want that Lucky Man sound. There are some other pedals that that might be easier to use or have more applications that also can give you something pretty close to that. Number 9. At my age, I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I think the final takeaway is if you really want to play a guitar synthesizer, get yourself a real guitar synthesizer. And I imagine there's somewhat of a learning curve for some of those fancier ones. But I thought this was the easiest to use of the 4 I've tried. The other thing about it is it's got another one of those Electro Harmonix big adapters. And they always have kind of a scary warning on their directions, you know, that you need this and that, this kind of a power supply. So I'm never sure if you can just plug in a good old Boss type 9-volt adapter into these things. They might work, but if you blow up the pedal, it's gone. So, and that's always, to me, as much as I love Electro Harmonix, they're probably my favorite company. On a lot of their pedals, that's always a limitation. I think that, you know, you need all those different power supplies, and you can get it, but and get special bricks, and maybe have all Electro Harmonix pedals on your pedal board or something. But it always adds a variable. And they're also, this one's not too bad, but Electro Harmonix pedals often can be kind of big and clunky. But boy, they always sound better than anybody in town. Just and they always have kind of cool rock and roll creative things. This one is pretty cool. I'm not going to call it a toy, but you know, some pedals I would describe as toys. You know, they're kind of fun to play with, but they're not sounds that you're going to be using all that much. And this could almost be considered that, but there were some usable sounds in it. So I do recommend it. Of the 4 I tried, that Boss one wasn't too bad either, but it had a lot of the 80s stuff, and the fact that it had all those little dials on it, that mode thing with like 100 different switches. You know, you couldn't. I'm nearsighted or farsighted now. I couldn't even see it. So I pretty much just found the one that sounded the closest to the 70s and left it on. But nonetheless, so this might be the best, and I think the knobs, it's not so complicated. You know, sometimes when you try to put all those things in a little pedal, you end up with the you know what show of all kinds of different possibilities. This one sounded pretty good. Most of the sounds I got out of it were pretty good, and I didn't even mess with it that much. Thanks. God bless.